Evacuation notices for entire towns have been issued in northeastern Colorado today, the towns of Haxton and Fleming. And the next few hours will determine whether it turns out to be an enormous brush fire that simply burns itself to exhaustion in the wide open spaces of the plains, or whether it takes out an entire Colorado town. 25,000 acres have burned in eastern Logan County. About 1,400 people are under that evacuation order. 3 schools were cleared out today, along with Haxton Hospital. Only 1 structure lost at this point, and no injuries have been reported. 9 News photojournalist Chris Hansen often brings us the pictures and the video we see here on Next. He's on the phone now from the Haxton Fire Department. Chris, what have you seen and heard out there?
Kyle, we rolled into Haxton about 45 minutes ago. Winds were blowing coming off of Highway 6. They're still blowing quite hard. We rolled up to the Haxton Volunteer Fire Department, where they've had truck after truck after truck coming through, filling up on water. It seems to be all hands on deck out here.
And Chris, you and I have covered fires in the field before, and often you just get a sense from the people out there, the first responders, the firefighters, a level of urgency or whether they think they're turning the corner. We know no containment. What are you seeing in terms of urgency?
It's very urgent. They're going to be working through the night on this, and they have, I think, up to 10 departments across the area working together to put out this fire.
Chris Hansen will be bringing us photos and videos throughout the evening here for Next and across the networks of 9 News. Chris, be safe up there in Haxton. And because of these conditions today, so dry, so windy, they were not messing around with a brush fire in Aurora this afternoon. There were 17 fire departments that raced out to Gun Club and Jewel to knock down a fire there, but not before it burned almost 300 acres. No homes were touched, fortunately. It is now completely contained, nothing on the cause. We hope that it wasn't human stupidity, but we know that with the danger on days like this, takes one person, one cigarette, one car window, and you have got one serious situation. Well, you know the wind is a factor when it is delaying and canceling flights at the airport. Frontier, United, Southwest, Delta, they all reported issues today. You know the basic drill. Always check on your flight before you head out there. Senator Cory Gardner is sending a serious message to House Republicans that he and a handful of other Senate Republicans are ready to block the GOP Obamacare repeal rolled out today unless there's added protections for Medicaid expansion. Nearly 250,000 Coloradans have been covered under the expansion of Medicaid and the ACA. We invited Senator Gardner on next to discuss this. He wasn't available today, and our invitation stands. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock is talking candidly about President Trump, like the fact that Denver has now lost its connection to the White House, like the fact that the mayor says he was so shocked and overwhelmed by Trump's win that he left work early the day after the election. It's where we begin our week-long conversation, the mayor and the president.
I think, you know, when I came back to the office the next day, there was a pall in the office. Everyone, it was tough getting through the day. In fact, in all the years that I've been mayor, the 5-6 years I've been mayor, I've only left one other time in the middle of the day, due to illness. But that day, about 1 o'clock, I said, I got to go breathe a little bit and kind of collect my thoughts, and I know a lot of other people had similar feelings. We recognized it was going to be a new day, and we had to reset and figure it all out.
So the president likes to describe himself as a deal maker, somebody who can get things done. Do you want to make deals with him?
We're going to have to make deals with him. I mean, he is the president of the United States, and the reality is we need to stop talking about the election and get on to making sure that this country runs smoothly.
So if you want to get in touch with him, I assume just through shared friends and contacts, you had a pipeline to President Obama in the White House. Right. Do you have a pipeline to the Trump White House?
You know, not yet. The reality is that it's going to take a while. He still has a lot of staff he has to bring on. His team is not complete, and so he's going to have to take time to build it, and we're going to have to take time to, when it happens, to get to know who the players are there.
Mm-hmm. I assume you want to be able to pick up the phone and reach the White House.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have to be able to communicate with the White House for a variety of reasons.
President Trump appears to have a pretty dim view of America's cities. In his inaugural, he talked about American carnage, describing cities as crime-ridden and dangerous and in decay. He's made some fairly prominent false statements about violent crime being at the highest levels in decades. Why do you think he's pushing that narrative about cities?
You know what? I can't comment on why or what the motives are for the president. But I can tell you this, that I know the mayors that I work with, regardless of their party affiliation, believe that their highest responsibility, greatest responsibility, is the health, safety, and well-being of every citizen that lives in their city.
Do you hear racial overtones when he criticizes cities and talks about them as dangerous places that his voters don't want to be?
You know, what I feel is a very non-constructive verbiage. What we need is the words from the president say we're here to help. No threats, but simply saying how can we be helpful as a nation, because those are our citizens as well, to come and to help in the senseless violence in the city of Chicago and wherever else it's occurring.
Our discussion, the mayor and the president, continues this week. Tuesday, we discussed an expected rollback of environmental rules. Wednesday, we'll talk about immigration actions and the city's controversial handling of the case of a murder suspect flagged for deportation previously. Thursday, it is education issues at hand. And then on Friday, we wrap up the week talking marijuana, whether the city expects a serious crackdown from the feds. If you're cruising the HOV lane and you see a Mazda Miata, a BMW Z3, or a Porsche Boxster, be assured they are paying their way, because those two-seater cars can't fit the 3 people now needed to drive in Colorado's HOV lanes for free. There's another push at the state capitol to change it back to 2, but here's a little secret. Anytime you save money, it costs someone else money, and the someone behind the HOV lanes is going to get paid either way. These nice new lanes on US 36 are the reason that HOV requirements went up from 2 to 3 people. The private company that partnered with the state to build them knows that increasing the requirement means more drivers will pay. And this company's no fool. They weren't about to let their profits get pulled out from under them by pesky state legislators undoing a higher HOV requirement. So the 159-page contract basically says if fewer people are required to pay the toll, then the state has to make up the difference.
If that change would happen to HOV2, then CDOT would be liable for that, for making up that cost, which is about $4.6 million a year, and it could change afterwards also. So
this is all about the percentage of people using the HOV for free. Under last year's 2-person standard, CDOT estimates 1 out of every 4 or 5 cars, 20-25%, used the HOV for free. When it changed to 3 people in January, it went down to only 15%. Using the lane for free. On top of changing the HOV requirements, this proposed bill would tell CDOT which projects it needs to work on next.
If what we have to do is have no say in how CDOT does their projects, and yet we are left holding the bag, then probably there has to be a bigger conversation about what transportation prioritization really looks like.
Representative McKean, who you heard from there, wants to force CDOT to move 2 I-25 expansion projects up to the top of the list. The one that's south of town between Castle Rock and Monument, and then up north between Longmont and Fort Collins. Not cheap projects. The state has said that adding lanes in both those areas would cost more than $1 billion. We get an update on the high winds pushing today's wildfires, provided our meteorologist hasn't blown away. Remembering a man you might not recognize until you hear his voice.
Turtle or Tor. Tess.
The 7-year-old expert who corrected our reporting Friday is back with an exciting update. And Gunnison's annual enormous snowman explained.
I've been out here at -10. It wasn't the most fun day to be doing it.
But there's a reason. Next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a pair of sheep reenacting President Trump's relationship with the press. Bighorn sheep do not mess around. We were just watching this over and over in the next office today, and it's fascinating because one of them looks at the other one like you want to go? And then the other one's like, yeah, I want to go. And then boom, smack, they get after it. National Wildlife Federation says the curved horns weigh up to 30 pounds. It's like they're swinging hammers at each other. Heather shot this video over the weekend with her husband up in Drake. They were headed down Highway 34. She says there are about a dozen bighorn sheep doing that bighorn sheep thing alongside the highway. If you missed Next on Friday, you missed a correction to our story about a frozen turtle revived after a car crash on Vail Pass. 7-year-old Elijah came in to tell me that the turtle wasn't really frozen, it was just hibernating. Elijah said he's always wanted a pet turtle, but his family's still talking about it. Kid's very diplomatic.
Well, if you want a pet turtle or tortoise, I would recommend getting a tortoise or a box turtle type turtle, not like a slider or anything, because they could actually bite you.
Shortly after our interview, Elijah traded in all of his stuffed animal tortoises, for the real deal. His mom took him to a pet store to get his very own tortoise, a Russian tortoise. He has named it Jeff Sessions. That's a joke. His mom suggested that he call it Kyle, but Elijah didn't like that name.
Hello, Kyle. This is my new pet tortoise. His name is Francel. I think I got him at Petco. I'm happy seeing him walk on new terrain because that means he'll be comfortable outside probably.
Francel the tortoise. If you missed Elijah on Friday, highly recommend you check out his interview on the Next YouTube page. A ton of people have, because frankly, there's no way to watch it without smiling, I promise you.
I don't know how you ever say no to that kid. Whatever he wants, he's too cute. I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin. Gusty, damaging, destructive winds continue along the Front Range tonight, and while we will see some relief overnight, it will not be entirely calm or quiet. Our high today at 53, that hit just about 1 o'clock in the morning. Temperatures took a nosedive into the 20s and 30s today with the arrival of that mid-morning front, which brought in a little snow for the morning drive for some of you in the South Metro. Pretty blustery up in the Fort Collins area as well, and these gusty winds out of the northwest, while they will lay down a little bit along the Front Range, they'll still be quite gusty in the foothills, where we saw peak gusts in excess of 60 and 70 miles per hour. The high wind warning has been scaled back and will cancel out at 11 o'clock tonight, I believe, for most of Colorado and Nebraska. But the red flag warning will be reinstated again tomorrow for high fire danger. Pressure gradient easing as the low slides off into the Midwest. But here in Denver, that wind will still be a part of our forecast for the next 24 hours. Clear and cold tonight, 19 degrees. The worst of the wind will be above 7,000 feet in the foothills. Temperatures tomorrow seasonal again, and then we warm up close to 70 Thursday and Friday, heading into the upcoming weekend and a return of the wind. And also, guess what? Daylight saving time begins on Sunday, the 12th.
Kathy, thanks. So some artists paint, some draw, others create a canvas out of whatever falls from the sky each season. Like the guy in Gunnison, who we meet through the lens of photojournalist Ann Herbst.
And there are times when snow comes down and it glistens.
There's just something magical about fresh, falling snow.
That's probably the best snow that you could see.
It almost feels like Christmas in March.
It's Christmas all the time.
Wayne Casca
Oh, for sure.
and his wife Vicky want to feel that magic all year round.
I've always liked Christmas. He's always liked Christmas.
So yeah, we like Christmas.
It's just something that we had a love for.
Their love of the season inspired them to open their shop in Gunnison. But something Vicky didn't know when they married 28 years ago was that Wayne had another love.
He can't help himself. It just happens.
Yeah, snow and me have a thing together. It's been one of my passions in life.
Snowman.
But not just any kind of snowman.
He says that he would like to build a little snowman, and it never turns out little.
Wayne's been building giant snowmen since he was a kid.
I did have arms on him this year, but they've been eroded away. I guess it's sort of like the Sphinx over in Egypt.
His smallest are about 10 feet, his biggest more than 2 stories tall.
It needed to have something unique for the hat, so I made another snowman on top.
People love to see them. They love to take pictures with them. They are awed by the size of them.
So odd that sometimes they pick fights with them.
There's no challenge from a snowman, so they came and they just whacked his head off.
But when he starts to lose his creations to more natural causes,
He is surprised. He's losing teeth.
Wayne just looks forward to next winter, when he can feel the magic of being a kid
Dig we must.
all over again.
The child in all of us can be remembered when you see something like what I create.
For next, this is Ann Herbst.
It's already shrunk by a few feet at this point in the season, but Wayne thinks that his current snowman just east of town on Highway 50 near Gunnison should be there for about another month if you want to swing by and take a look. We will return here on next with a final listen to a voice that has entertained hundreds of thousands of Coloradans over the years. Our ongoing search for the smartest kid in Colorado took us to Hamilton Middle School in Denver, where middle school brains were doing battle. Our Steve.
What is the volume of a box?
They say great minds think alike.
This is Brain Bowl, so it's kind of like a fun trivia competition between schools. Ice. Should I say ice? Let's say ice.
Ice. That is correct.
If the Euclid Middle School no-brainers didn't already have a motto,
No brain, no game.
perhaps they could turn a phrase. For Euclid, great minds are alike. Very alike.
We're like best friends for life, so it's like playing on a team with your best friend.
3 of the 5 members of this team are triplets.
We've always been really close, so I mean, we all, I don't want to brag, but I think we're all pretty smart.
Alec, Marissa, and Michaela Soroy have earned bragging rights.
I reach into like the depths of my mind, and there's like some random something that I know that I'm like, oh my gosh, I know that, I can brag about it now.
1 point for the green team.
They say the secret to success isn't necessarily brain power, or numbers in their case.
Yeah, it's tobacco. It's tobacco. Yeah, it's tobacco.
It's certainty.
Yes, I'm positive. I'm 100% positive it's tobacco.
Tobacco?
That is correct.
I think a lot of kids could do this, they just don't have the confidence, and they don't realize that they're smarter than they think they are.
Certainty.
Protozoa.
Yes!
Even in the face of an occasional wrong answer. They didn't see many of those on their way to second place here at the state tournament.
It's kind of fun to say that your team is one of the smartest in the state.
3 minds that may not be identical.
Pyroclastic flow.
They're really smart, so team wins and stuff.
But have one thing in common.
Being smart is really cool.
Confidence. For next, I'm Steve Steger.
The Brain Bowl is put on by the Optimist Club. It includes students from Colorado as well as Wyoming. The team that beat the no-brainers in the 8th grade division was Centennial Middle School out of Boulder, so our congratulations to them. If you ever went to one of our region's great rodeos, the great voice that greeted your ears was likely that of Hadley Barrett. The voice of the Greeley Stampede for 30 years, died late last week of heart failure at the age of 87. Hadley Barrett's voice also flowed from the speakers at Cheyenne Frontier Days. Let's listen to him one more time.
If Cheyenne Frontier Days was merely the outstanding rodeo staged in the arena behind me, that would be impressive enough. But it's much more than the world's most famous rodeo. It's a citywide celebration of a bygone era. So unique, so spectacular, it attracts visitors from literally all over the world.
I told you you'd heard his voice before. That was the year 2000. Hadley Barrett got into rodeo riding at first, bulls and bareback horses, before he moved behind the microphone. He was a member of the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association and the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. He announced rodeos all over the country, called Colorado home. He's survived by his wife, 6 children, 17 grandchildren, 11 great-grandchildren. They gathered today for his memorial in Loveland. We'll get into your feedback when we get back. You get the final word, as always. Mindy Jones writes, just got back from the service for Hadley Barrett. Great friend to our family, loved by so many. God bless Hadley. Eric Lipp writes, in this downer world, next is a good place to be. I happen to agree, Eric, but Robert Wilson does not. He writes, finally found a replacement for Kyle Clark. Elijah the Turtle Kid sticks to facts with none of the senseless commentary. Andrew Bennett and Rose Rothmeyer appreciate our interview with Mayor Hancock. Our series, The Mayor and the President, continues next time.